my viewer and my listener. In our today's episode, we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, a topic that has sparked many reactions across social media platforms, a topic that has raised many concerns across social media platforms, a topic that has raised so many questions in people's heads, in people's minds concerning this issue of people taking in wild animals or rescuing in wild animals and at the end of the day, making them their pet. What do you think? Do you think that if you rescue a wild animal and taking care of it, feeding it until its maturity, do you think it's going to change its behavior? Do you think it's going to adapt to domestic behaviors? Do you think it's going to relate with humans in a good manner or in a well-balanced manner, just like any other domestic animal kept at home? Do you think wild animals change their behavior after living with humans for a very long time and being taken care of? This is the story of Julia Banks of Florida in Clearwater Springs, who nurtured and rescued a young alligator, took care of it until its maturity. Let's go deep into the story and find out what happened between Julia Banks and and her pet, the reef. Remember, guys, before we continue, this is Imara TV. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. So let's dive into the story. The terrifying last swim of Julia Banks. Her pet gator dragged her under. Julia Banks of Clearwater Springs in Florida. For 5 years, Julia Banks cared for an alligator named Reef. She nursed him from a hatchling into a full-grown predator. In the August afternoon sent shockwaves through the community and raised questions about the dangers of raising wild animals. Julia Banks was 28 years old when she died in the Clearwater Springs of Florida. Julia was an animal lover to a point where she lived for their sake. She even took care of orphaned raccoons, abandoned possums, and injured egrets. She took them all, but none had captured her heart quite like the hatching she found near the edge of the Appalachian River 5 years earlier. It was barely the size of her hand, just 8 inches long. Most people to that encounter would have run the other way. Julia wrapped it in a towel and took it home. She named him Reef. Julia went on ahead and received a special wild animal permit, though her animal rehabilitation center had warned her. By 3 years old, Reef had grown to a 5 feet long, and by 5 years old, later he had grown to 8 feet from a snout to tail. People around her noticed. So did the wildlife officers. They warned her. Today, they told her that alligators, no matter how tame they seem, they never lose their primal instincts, that food and territory are things that matter more than love and trust. But Julia will not hear that. To her, Reef wasn't dangerous. He was different. She fed him by hand, swam with him in a backyard pool. Julia treated Reef like a child. For 5 years, still nothing went wrong. For this reason, Reef had grown so big. Julia constructed for him a backyard-sized pool where Julia and Reef swam together. Reef never showed any signs of aggression, even though the official still had a concern. He had grown so large that his tail alone could knock down a full-grown dog. At this point, Reef could accommodate a whole chicken, where Julia could feed him in a distance. But Julia still entered a pool with him, still floated beside him in silence, whispering reassurances, smiling as if nothing had changed. Julia had not realized it yet. In the summer of 2022, Reef had grown to 7.5 feet length, with muscles bulging outward. He started groaning with the thunderous sounds. This sent terror among the neighbors. Even the wildlife officers started to worry. One officer still had rumors from officers about Julia and Reef pet. He warned her that he is not a dog. But Julia insisted that she knew Reef better than anyone else could ever did. She said that he was kind and honest. But on the other side, Neighbors began to report incidents that they heard loud hissing sounds during feeding time. Reef changed during feeding routine. He could sometimes knock the steel cage and wide open his mouth at Julia. Still, Julia could not acknowledge the change. Julia sometimes posted her and Reef along at the pool. People warned her to stop swimming with her, that it was a ticking time bomb. Julia said that people misunderstood him for his trust. The warnings had been given to Julia severally until they were justified. In just a few weeks, they were proven. On the sunny afternoon of August 18, 2023, the air was thick with humidity, the kind that clings to your skin. Julia Banks stepped out into the backyard carrying a pool skimmer and bucket. Water in a pool was clouded with algae. Reef was nearby. During her cleanings, he was just calm, normally. Today, there was strange stillness about him. Julia eased into the pool, ignoring his warning signs. He had been fed an hour earlier and was full and restless. When Julia Banks entered into the pool, something changed. Something dangerous happened. Remember, this is Imara TV. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. This is just part 1 of Julia Banks and her pet Reef. Let us dive into part 2. Let us wait into part 2. Let us get to know what really happened. Thank you.